Letters from a Cat by Helen I. Introduction. Dear children, I do not feel wholly sure that my pussy wrote these letters herself. I always come in sight with letters written to me by Mama or other friends, and I never caught pussy writing at any time when I was at home. But the printing was pretty bad, and we were signed by pussy's name, and my Mamas always looked very mysterious when I asked about them, as if there were some very great secret about it all. So that, until I grew to be a big girl, I never doubted but that pussy printed them all alone by herself after dark. They were written when I was a very little girl and was away from home with my father on a journey. We made this journey in our own carriage, and it was one of the pleasantest things that ever happened to me. My clothes and my father's were packed in a little leather valise, which was hung by straps underneath the carriage, and went swinging back and forth as the wheels went round. My father and I used to walk up all the steep hills because old Charley, our horse, was not very strong, and I kept my eyes on the rails all the while I was walking behind the carriage. It seemed to me the most unsafe way to carry a valise, and I wished very much that my best dress had been put in a bundle that I could carry in my lap. This was the only drawback on the pleasure of my journey, my fear that the valise would fall off when I did not know it and be left in the road, and when I should not have anything nice to wear when I reached my aunt's house. The rails went through all safe, and I had the satisfaction of wearing my best dress every afternoon while I stayed, and I was foolish enough to think a great deal of this. On the 4th day after our arrival came a letter from my Mama, giving me a great many directions how to behave, and enclosing this first letter from my pussy. I carried both letters in my apron pocket all the time. They were the first letters I ever had received, and I was very proud of them. I showed them to everybody, and everybody laughed hard at pussies and asked me if I believed that pussy printed it herself. I thought perhaps my Mama held a paw with a pen in it, as she had sometimes held my hand for me and guided my pen to write a few words. I asked Papa to please to ask Mama in his letter if that were the way pussy did it. But when his next letter from Grandma came, he read me the sentence out of it. Tell Helen I did not hold pussy's paw to write that letter. So when I felt sure pussy did it herself, and as I told you, I had grown up to be quite a big girl before I began to doubt it. You see, I thought my pussy such a wonderful pussy that nothing was too remarkable for her to do. I knew very well that cats generally did not know how to read or write, but I thought there had never been such a cat in the world as this pussy of mine. It is a great many years since she died, but I can see her before me today as plainly as if it were only yesterday that I had really seen her alive. She was a little kitten when I first had her, but she grew fast and was very soon bigger than I wanted her to be. I wanted her to stay little. Her fur was a beautiful dark grey color, and there were black stripes on the side, like the stripes on a tiger. Her eyes were very big, and her ears unusually long and pointed. This made her look like a fox, and she was so bright and mischievous that some people thought she must be part fox. She used to do one thing that I never heard of any other cats doing. She used to play hide and seek. Did you ever hear of a cat playing hide and seek? And the most wonderful part of it was that she took it up of her own accord. As soon as she heard me shut the gate in the yard at noon, when school was done, she would run up the stairs as hard as she could go and take a place at the top, where she could just peep through the banisters. When I opened the door, she would give a funny little mew, something like the mew cats make when we call their kittens. When as soon as I stepped on the first stair to come up to her, she would race away at the top of her speed and hide under her bed. And when I reached the room, there would be no pussy to be seen. If I called her, she would come out from under the bed. But if I left the room and went downstairs without speaking, in less than a minute she would fly back to a post at the head of the stairs and call again with a peculiar mew. As soon as I appeared, off she would run and hide under the bed as before. Sometimes she would do this 3 or 4 times, and it was a favorite amusement of my mother's to exhibit this trick of hers to strangers. It was odd, for she never would do it twice when she observed that other people were watching. When I called her and she came out from under the bed, if there were strangers looking on, she would walk straight to me in the demurest manner, as if it were a pure accident that she happened to be under the bed. And no matter what I did or said, her frolic was over for the day. She used to follow me just like a little dog wherever I went. She followed me to school every day, and we had great difficulty on Sundays to keep her from following us to church. Once she followed me when it made a good many people laugh, in spite of themselves, on an occasion when it was very improper to them to laugh, and they were all feeling very sad. It was at the funeral of one of the professors in the college. The professors' families all sat together, and when the time came for them to walk out of the house and get into the carriage to go to the graveyard, they were called one after the other by name. When it came to our turn, my father and mother went first, arm in arm, then my sister and I. And then who should rise very gravely but my pussy, who had slipped into the room after me and had not been noticed in the crowd. With a slow and deliberate gait she walked along directly behind my sister and me, as if she were the remaining member of the family, as indeed she was. People began to smile, and as we passed through the front door and went down the steps, some of the men and boys standing there laughed out.